Yes. Good evening, everyone. May I request Professor Murali Krishnan, sir, Vice President of iSPELL, to start the event. Please, sir.
Yes. Good evening.
Hello. I think I'm audible there, Pramod. Pramod, am I audible there?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. So, good evening, all of you. Welcome to today's monthly program. This program is channeled through what we call as iSPELL. iSPELL is the organization, is the association, the society that runs this program. It is initiated by us, monthly Sahitik Satsang. iSPELL is a shortened version of the word Indigenous Society for the Promotion of English Language and Literature. It is a registered society. It has been functioning since 2020. iSPELL was formally inaugurated and launched in 5th September 2020. It's a day we all know. It's a Teachers' Day. So on that auspicious day, we launched this particular platform. And the motto of the society is to facilitate, to elevate. That is the message, or that is the motto based on which we actually function. It's a very vibrant society. We have already conducted more than 400 programs in various parts of the country. The executive committee is actually led by none other than Professor G. Ghanshyam. Sir is the founder and general secretary of iSPELL. He's joined there. Is now there at the meeting. We have the national president, Dr. Ashok Sachadeva. And we have Dr. Prashanto Chakraborty, who is the vice president. And there are many very, I should say, well-known dignitaries as part of the executive committee. We have Payal Dutt Chowdhury, Dr. Kshamada Chowdhury, Dr. Rakesh Dikrashkar, Dr. Pramod Dhengle. He is actually the person who is managing the entire program. Dr. Shalini Yadav, Dr. Rakesh Damer, Dr. Lieutenant Indrani, Dr. Shamolina Saikia, and of course, Dr. Virendra Toka. And we have, as iSPELL, I would say that we have number of forums throughout the country. We have a forum in Chhattisgarh. We have a forum in Tripura. We have a forum in South Karnataka. We have a forum in Rajasthan, West Bengal, East Maharashtra, Assam, and Tamil Nadu. So we are growing, year by year. We are growing big in size, and we are very much aware of quantity as well as the quality of. And we have got into a number of memorandum of understanding (MOUs) with many institutions at the national level. And we have many speakers. When you look into the number of speakers, we have many speakers for the last 6 years. Earlier, it was conducted during the COVID time every week. We call it as Sunday Sahitik Satsang. So invariably, we will have 4 meetings per month. But now, later on, we knew that it is sometimes difficult to have this kind of continuous programs with the when we had the normal way of life. So by around 2023, we moved over to a platform like monthly Sahitik Satsang, and over the last 1 year, we have revamped the entire system. And now we have this monthly Satsang and going on well. Now, what I would say is that, we have eminent speakers. We have in 2020-21, we have even Bill Ashcroft addressing us. We have Dr. Gerald Kopchik addressing us. So there are eminent international figures in literature and psychology, like addressing through this Sahitik Satsang. It is not just theoretical discussion. We also had discussions based on themes related to indigenous cultures. Say, for example, Northeast cultures in Northeast. We had like actors, theater artists coming for discussion. So it's actually a blend of so many things. It's a blend of literature, theory, performing art, art, culture. And it's that way. That's why I said it's a society run by an eminent group of people who invite exemplary kind of, I should say speakers throughout India and outside India. So I welcome all those who have joined here. So now my duty is to introduce today's speaker. Is a very good friend of mine, Dr. Rajesh V. Nair. He is a professor of English in the School of Letters, Mahatma Gandhi University, Kottayam. He has obtained his PhD from University of Kerala with specialization in autobiography and life writing studies. He is currently a professor as a research supervisor at MG University. And his academic interests include memory studies, life writing, gender studies, and graphic narratives. And recent years, his research has focused increasingly on the interdisciplinary areas on health, humanities, and cultural computing. And when we look into the number of publications for the last 2 decades, now he has been teaching for the last 2 decades. Now he has brought out many scholarly works, including life writing studies, a biography in 2017, Politics of Life Writing, a study of Mahatma Gandhi's select uh, English biographies, Critical Musings, essays on literature and culture, autobiography of Jacob Ramavarman, the native missionary, and he's also a guest editor of the was once a guest editor in based on life writing in Samyukta, a journal of gender and culture. And he has recently published a book. And it was published by Orient Blackswan in 2024 on life writing and introduction. And his research has appeared in Journal of Graphic Novels and Comics, published by Routledge, is also published in Indian Journal of Gender Studies by Sage, and he has also contributed a chapter on the Malayali diaspora in Indian literatures in diaspora, again by Routledge in 2022, and also a chapter examining mobility and health in transgender life narratives in 2023. So it's a I should say big list. I don't have time to read out all that, and I don't want to embarrass my good friend there. And in addition to all this, in addition to scholarly writing, he is also a creative writer, and he is also interested in theater. He has a strong engagement with theater, and he has recently scripted and directed 2 plays and has served as an associate director under noted playwright Mahesh Dattani. So he is now currently initiating a project titled Theater Therapy as part of the activities of the Center of Health Humanities. So friends, now you know the resource person of the day is not a common kind of an academic as we understand. He is a well-known person throughout India, of course, but he has also, he has all legitimate right to be addressed as a real resource person. So, Rajesh sir, I'm so thankful that you have accepted the invitation and joined this particular monthly Sahitik Satsang for today. So, welcome to this program. And also, let me also thank all those who have joined here for this discussion. And I hope in a matter of 45 minutes to 1 hour, we will have an enriching and enlightening discussion. And after that, I'm sure the resource person will be happy to take a few questions if you have any kind of things as part of discussion. So, on behalf of all those who have joined here, Rajesh sir, I welcome you. So, it's now your turn to address this. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. At the outset, let me clarify, am I audible? Sufficiently audible?
Yes, sir. You are audible.
So, good evening, one and all. Thank you very much, Professor Muralikrishnan sir, for speaking so many good words about me. So it is indeed a privilege. I consider it a privilege to be a part of your community, your family. Uh, uh, iSPELL, right? iSPELL. I'm indeed very happy to share some thoughts tonight with the members, with esteemed professors, with all those who have joined, right? So today's lecture is titled Life After PhD, right? So life after PhD, it's quite an unusual and tricky topic, right? Quite unusual, slightly tricky. So it is mainly for those who have completed their PhD degree, right? So today I'm going to speak a few things about what we can do after getting a PhD degree, right? And of course, there are cynics who uh, speak negative things about PhD. Usually PhD is Doctor of Philosophy. Some people call it permanent head damage. So after passing through all the trials and tensions, so somebody, a candidate, succeeds in defending his or her thesis and ultimately gets a PhD degree. And normally, people would prefer to take a rest after getting the PhD degree. Right? People are liberated. I have heard scholars telling, I am liberated after my defense. Right? But on the other hand, if you look at the possibilities, so I would like to focus on that side. So everything has got a positive side, right? So what all can we do after getting a PhD degree, right? So I am reminded of a very important observation made by a leading academician. He was my professor in University of Hyderabad, and I remember him telling me, a real researcher is born only after getting a PhD degree, because it is all about learning and, more importantly, unlearning so many things. We have made so many mistakes while doing research. We could have done much better. That is why not many people would prefer to read one's thesis again and again. So today, while thinking about the structure of the project of the lecture, I happened to come across my PhD thesis after a long time. I brought it from the shelf. I used to hide the thesis. So it is quite an embarrassing experience for a researcher to revisit one's thesis after some time. It is quite natural, right? So we have different possibilities to do after getting a PhD degree. So, as we all know that research is a lifelong journey. So, what are the things which we can do? We can do two or three important things after getting a PhD degree. Professional from the professional point of view, as well as from a personal inclination. If you are so much passionate about research, you can think of publishing your thesis into a book. That is one possibility. It is good for your career growth also. So that is one possibility. The second possibility is to publish a few articles based on one's PhD thesis. The third possibility is, I'm talking about life after PhD. The third possibility is to, develop our research PhD project into a postdoctoral proposal, or a postdoctoral project, right? Yet another dimension, there is another angle, in the sense that there is still life after PhD, in the sense that a researcher can become a research supervisor. So the transformation from a researcher into a research supervisor, that is also a possibility. So there are so many positive things we can do after getting a PhD. So today I would like to focus on one aspect, that is how to convert one's PhD thesis into a book. I accept at the very beginning that this topic could be useful for only a minority of audience, especially those who have completed PhD, right? That is not a drawback, but you can think about those who are doing PhD. You can think about the possibilities after getting PhD degree. So at the very outset, I would like to introduce the objectives of my brief lecture. I would like to explain the process of transforming a PhD dissertation into a scholarly book. So that transformation, the process is not a simple thing. It is a complicated process. Secondly, I would like to throw some light on how to prepare an effective academic book proposal. So we see, in order to publish our thesis into a book, we need to submit a book proposal. Okay. So I have the book with me. This is my PhD actually. My PhD thesis. So I did so many mistakes while converting my thesis into a book. So it's so I learned so many things through this process. So I would like to share some mistakes which I committed while converting my thesis into a book. Right. So uh, as an introduction, I can say that converting one's thesis or dissertation into a book is not as simple as we think. It is not like copying the thesis into a book, into a scholarly book. Not like that. So what all we need to do? We need to do so many things, including we have to restructure the chapters of our dissertation. We have to condense the literature review. We have to update the scholarship. So there could be so many relevant articles and books on the topic after submitting the thesis. So we need to update the scholarship on our field, and we have to include new comments and new observations and new studies in our area while converting the thesis into a book. So we have to internally restructure the thesis. That is the first step. And the second step is to prepare a book proposal from the new outline of the thesis, which is supposed to be converted into a book. So we had to think about the two steps. So let me talk about the first phase, that is converting a thesis into a book. While a thesis is designed, we have to be very clear about this thing. While a thesis is designed to demonstrate a candidate's research competence to examinates. Finally, a thesis is valued by a group of examiners, 2 or 3 examiners. So the target audience of a thesis or a dissertation is a group of a group of examiners, and of course the supervisor. So on the other hand, a book must engage a broader scholarly audience and contribute meaningfully to ongoing debates in the field. So the target audience of a book is a wider audience, a broader scholarly audience, and each and every publisher will look at the market possibility of a particular book. So when we send the book proposal, and obviously there is one important question which is raised by every publisher: what is the viability of this book? What is the market possibility of a book? So book is targeting a wider audience. So we have to keep this in mind. So therefore, substantial revisions, I repeat, substantial revisions have to be made in a thesis. And I forgot to mention one thing at the beginning. We have the PhD thesis with us. We have the data with us. We have the material. And it is not easy to write a 200-page or 250-page long book. So if you want to publish a book of your own, the ideal thing is to convert that book convert your thesis into a book, which is quite easier rather than writing a full length book, right? So radical revisions are required rather than mere editing. So mere editing won't help. Editing is of course required, but it is a secondary activity. So what all radical revisions can be made in our thesis? The first important thing which we have to keep in mind, I would like to draw your attention to 5 or 6 very important aspects during this conversion process, this complex conversion process. The first important thing which we have to keep in mind is to identify our central argument. So the central argument, the main argument of a thesis has to be kept in mind. The central argument of the dissertation is very important. We have to focus on the central argument. A critical step in revising the thesis is to identify, and we have to refine the central argument. Doctoral dissertations often contain multiple subsidiary arguments intended to demonstrate methodological rigor and familiarity with the existing scholarship. So there could be so many subsidiary arguments in the thesis. So while conceiving a text, what we have to keep in mind, a book requires a clear and compelling argument. So from the beginning to the end, a book requires a clear and compelling argument that runs consistently through all chapters. So therefore, the author must re-evaluate the dissertation from the perspective of potential readers. So we have to keep in mind the readers, potential readers of our book. So we have to think from the perspective of potential readers and identify the most original and significant contribution of our field. So we have to focus on that original, the most important and most original contribution of our thesis, and we have to focus on that aspect and let that argument pass us throughout the book, right? That is one important thing. Secondly, we have to reduce certain formalities in the thesis. Every thesis has certain protocols, certain formalities which include extensive methodology chapters, lengthy literature reviews, and repetitive explanations designed to guide examiners. So we keep examiners in our mind, and we include so many jargons, and there could be so many repetitive explanations, so many lengthy quotations, literature reviews, etc., etc. So these sections should be condensed significantly. So while converting the thesis into a book, we have to condense all these sections significantly during this revision process. So instead of dedicating separate chapters to the methodology or literature review, these discussions can be integrated into the introduction or incorporated into analytical chapters where they are indirectly relevant to the argument. So where they are directly relevant to the argument. So this is a very important point. So we have to condense the methodology and literature review, and we need not set apart separate chapters. We need not follow the pattern which we followed in our thesis. I remember while converting my thesis into a book, I was literally copying the entire structure. Hence, I set apart one theoretical chapter for my book, which is very inadequate when I look back, when I revisit my book, right? So this integration and condensation of methodology and literature review is very, very important. So we can incorporate all these things while discussing the analytical chapters where they are directly relevant to the argument. This is the second important thing. So we have to tone down the formalities of thesis. Thirdly, we have to reorganize the structure of the thesis. The structure of the dissertation has to be revamped, has to be reorganized when we convert it into a book. A thesis usually follows a certain rigid academic structure. I repeat the term rigid. It's a rigid academic structure, whereas a book requires a more coherent and intellectual narrative. So a book requires a coherent narrative. So we have to keep that in mind. Authors may need to merge or shorten chapters. Sometimes we may merge some chapters. I was just talking about the theoretical chapter. So instead of just narrating a particular theory or a couple of theories throughout the 30, 40 pages, it would be very, very embarrassing for readers, readers may not take it well. So we have to merge and shorten chapters. We may have to reorganize sections. Some sections have to be reorganized. So the sequence of arguments, the flow of the arguments should be smooth. There has to be a smooth progression of ideas, which is very, very important. So, dear friends, remember the goal is to create a structure that enhances readability. So, I repeat, a book is actually is a commodity. It's essentially a commodity. Though it has value, of course. So we have to keep in mind the readability of our product, right? Readability and argumentative clarity. There has to be clarity in our arguments. There has to be smooth flow of arguments. So editors frequently advise scholars to redesign the table of contents entirely, so that we have to restructure and redesign the table of contents of a thesis entirely, rather than merely adapting the thesis structure. So it is not just like following the same pattern of a dissertation. We have to redesign and restructure. So therefore, the point is, it will take some 5 or 6 months. It's not as simple. It's not a question of spending 1 month to convert a thesis into a book. No. So we need a step-by-step process. We need to pass through a step-by-step process, which may take 5 or 6 months. Right. So while revising a dissertation for publication as a scholarly book, authors should also attend to features that improve the usability. I talked about readability, dear friends. So now we have to think about how to improve the usability or accessibility of the manuscript. So the manuscript has to be accessible, has to be usable. The inclusion of an index is very important. So we didn't include an index in our thesis. The inclusion of an index is important, which will improve the readability and accessibility. And it won't be a bad idea if we add a glossary. In our book, we can add a glossary. So both in an index and glossary can assist readers in navigating the key concepts and terminologies. So readers will be benefited. So while navigating through the book, so once they come across a glossary of key terms, so they will get to know more about the book. So decisions should also be made regarding whether appendicitis. So if you want to add an appendix, of course, which were not appendix which was not there in your original thesis, you can think about adding an appendix. And any other supplementary resources you can include. Okay, so all these revisions are very important. So highlighting connections with related disciplines, which is also important. This is another very important aspect. Highlighting connections with related disciplines such as cultural studies, linguistics, and history can broaden the potential readership. So we have to convince the publisher that our book has the potential of a wider readability. So this interdisciplinary dimension. So it is better to pitch the interdisciplinary nature of our, or the interdisciplinary potential of our book project. So which can invite as many readers as possible, so that the sales of the book will increase. And obviously the publishers would be very keen to do that, to publish that book. So the potential readership, and situate the work within wider interdisciplinary debates, not only scholars from the field of literature. If you are planning to publish your thesis on James Coetzee. So if you give an interdisciplinary angle to, if you highlight the interdisciplinary angle of your project through a book proposal, and of course, and book proposal as well as the book, of course, we have the potential to revise the concluding chapter. So by incorporating the recent studies on JM Coetzee, for example, so we can make it a little bit more interdisciplinary, so that scholars from other disciplines other than literature, they can also show some interest. They will also show some interest in our book. So in addition, authors may consider the possibilities for digital publication also. Okay, that's also a new trend. So we can also highlight the possibility also. So finally, maintaining a consistent voice, maintaining a consistent authorial voice that balances scholarly precision with readability strengthens coherence while verifying permissions for third-party materials. So we have to be very clear about the copyright issues. If you propose to include some visuals, you have to get the copyright. And the last point, that is the authorial voice. And usually, I don't know, I still don't agree with that. But we have to comply with the general rule that we are not supposed to use, a researcher is not supposed to use I in a PhD thesis. So while converting the thesis into a book, your voice should be heard aloud in your book. So you are very important. So your voice should be heard aloud. So you have that freedom. Unlike the rigid framework, the rigid system of a dissertation process of research. Okay, so another dimension is strengthening the introduction and conclusion. So while uh, converting the dissertation into a book, we have to think about strengthening the introductory chapter as well as the concluding chapter. So publishers expect a strong and engaging introduction that clearly explains the research problem. The introductory chapter, the research problem, has to be clearly explained. And it also outlines the central argument and demonstrates the book's contribution to the existing scholarship. So the introductory chapter also highlights and demonstrates the book's contribution to the existing scholarship. So the introduction should also situate the study within the broader academic debates and indicate its relevance to readers beyond the immediate research topic. So while doing research, while writing one's dissertation, you would be thinking only about getting a PhD degree. You would be focusing mainly on your research topic. So now you can think beyond the research topic, the wider and broader academic debate surrounding your research topic. So you can include all these things as additions. All these things are additions to one's thesis. So similarly, the conclusions should synthesize the major findings, reflect on the broader implications, and suggest possible directions for future research. So of course, every thesis, every dissertation has to be revised, particularly in the concluding chapter. So there should be so many new developments in our field. You can add the recent developments, and you can highlight the new implications of your study, which makes your book, or which makes your dissertation even more viable, right? So from the content part, from the structural part, we should also think about some other aspects, technical aspects, such as we have to revise the style, and we have to update the scholarship, right? And another crucial aspect is to improve the readability. So the publishers are very keen about the readability. So how can we improve the readability? The readability of the manuscript can be improved by reducing excessive academic jargon. So in the thesis, researchers are forced to include so much academic jargon, so many academic jargons. So we have to tone down the excessive use of academic jargon while planning a book. And we have to avoid repetitive phrases in the thesis. We know that. You all know. Some phrases are repeated, like the thesis argues is a good example. The thesis argues, the thesis proposes, etc., etc., etc. So it is better to avoid certain repetitive phrases. And the writing style should aim for clarity and intellectual engagement. So you have to intellectually engage. You have to be less formal. Thesis is more formal, more rigid, and more objective. So there has to be clarity and intellectual engagement. At the same time, references must be updated. Yes, of course. New studies would have emerged after you procured the PhD degree. So new references should be included. Recent scholarship should be published after the completion of the thesis, right? So while revising the literature, unnecessary citations, yes, this is also an aspect which we have to keep in mind. So we have to avoid unnecessary citations and overly long footnotes. So some scholars, they use so many footnotes. Some scholars, depending on their topics, they use long footnotes. So you have to reduce the number of footnotes and all those things while converting it into a book, right? So what we need to do finally is to highlight the original contribution of our thesis. So to be publishable, a book must clearly articulate its original contribution. So in the book proposal also, we have to highlight what's the original contribution of this book. So why this book is important for society, why this book is important for the publisher, so that they can sell maximum copies. So the original contribution, whether it be theoretical, whether your contribution is theoretical in the field of theory, for example, gender studies, methodological, or interpretative. So scholars should highlight how their research advances the current discussions in literary studies and related fields. Additionally, identifying a suitable publisher whose thematic focus aligns with that of the project is crucial for success. So the entire process has to be done. So while completing the process, we have to think about approaching a publisher. And before approaching the publisher, we have to download the book proposal forms and we have to fill the book proposal. And we have to keep that in mind. And most academic publishers process require a detailed book proposal that includes a synopsis. In the book proposal, you have to include a synopsis of your project, of your thesis, then chapter outline. So you have to condense the ideas of each and every chapter. Description of the target audience. You have to give details about the possible target audience of your thesis, and analysis of competing titles. So you can change the title of your dissertation, of course, which can reach the audience more, which can reach the readers more. Okay, maybe you can think of modifying the usual research titles, which have two parts. The first one is a thematic part, and second one is an long explanation of the thematic part. So you can introduce a better title, a simpler title, and you have to give information about your credentials as a writer. So before submitting the manuscript and proposal, it is highly advisable for you, dear friends, to go through all these technicalities before submitting the book proposal. So these are the steps which I have already discussed so far. The first step is regarding the process of converting the thesis into a book. The first step is rereading and rethinking the thesis. You plan you take 6 months. Set apart 6 months. You have to reread your thesis and you have to rethink the structure of the thesis. Okay. It is very difficult, I know. Objectively reading one's thesis is quite difficult. It's a painful process, and more importantly, is an embarrassing process. I know that. Secondly, identify the book's core argument. So we have to identify the book's core argument, which are okay. Redesign the structure. We have to tweak the structure of the thesis. Revise the introduction. Condense the literature review. Okay, avoid long literature review. Revise the first analytical chapters, very, very important. Revise the remaining chapters. Update scholarship. Strengthen the conclusion. Improve style and readability. prepare the book proposal, identify publishers and submit. So I have spoken about certain things which we have to which we need to do before submitting the book proposal. Now, let me quickly give you some ideas about how to prepare a book proposal. So, having completed restructuring one's dissertation, so we need to approach a good publisher. There are different possibilities. Either you can go for a national publisher or an international publisher. So, how to prepare a book proposal? So, academic publishers, particularly university presses, so top publishers, university presses, Oxford University Press, for example, typically assess proposals prior to requesting the complete manuscript. So, they would top publishers, they would prefer book proposals before receiving the manuscript. So that they can check the viability, feasibility of your project, book project. A well-structured proposal allows editors and peer reviewers to comprehend the intellectual scope. The intellectual scope of the book is very, very important. The intellectual scope, originality, and scholarly significance of the project. For scholars in humanities, the proposal serves as a concise representation of the book's argument, contribution to the field, and potential readership. So there would be so many questions in a book proposal. You have to answer the details, the questions, the raise. Okay, so one important component of a book proposal, the title of a book proposal or a subtitle. So the title and subtitle constitute the initial point of engagement between the proposed book and its prospective readers. So when converting a thesis into a book, the title should transcend the highly technical phrasing often employed in dissertations and instead present a clear, engaging, and conceptually focused articulation of the central argument. So you have to redesign the title, you have to restructure the title so that the title clearly engages the potential readers. An effective title is concise and intellectually suggestive, while the subtitle clarifies the disciplinary or thematic scope of the study. And if you are keen, you can add the subtitle also. So avoid the rigid thesis titles. You can revise the title. So in my book, I followed the same title, which I should not have, right? So modifying the title is the one important aspect. The second important aspect of a book proposal is author information. You have to add your information. The proposal should include a brief academic profile of approximately 100 to 150 words. You have to add a brief CV, bio of 100 and 150 words that introduces the author to the publisher. You have to introduce your academic credentials to the publisher. So this section demonstrates the author's scholarly credibility and situates the project within the research trajectory. The profile typically includes, in your bio, you should include the author's name, institutional affiliation, and current academic position. So you have to include the institutional affiliation with the official email address. You have to include the current academic position, your recent publications, etc., etc. So that's also very, very important. It will create a good impression in the mind of a publisher if you write a good CV, if you prepare a good CV. The third important component is book synopsis. You have to write a book synopsis, usually ranging from 500 to 100 words, depending on the publisher, right? Usually publishers look for a 500 to 1,000 word book synopsis. And this book synopsis constitutes the most critical component of the proposal. This is very important. You have to design the book synopsis very carefully because it's the most important component of the proposal. And this section presents a concise yet comprehensive overview of the book's intellectual framework. It should clearly articulate the central argument of the book and the research problem that the study seeks to address. As many theses are written for examination committees, the synopsis should translate the dissertation's argument into a more coherent and reader-oriented narrative. I already mentioned that. So we had to come out of that rigid framework of how we prepared a synopsis before submitting the thesis. So a book synopsis should target readers, not the examiners. So the synopsis must also describe the theoretical framework that informs the analysis. So book synopsis is very, very important. Then table of contents and chapter outline. The book proposal must include a tentative table of contents along with the brief descriptions of each chapter. So we have to include a small paragraph of each and every chapter. And this chapter summaries, typically 150 to 200 words long, convey the main argument and analytical focus of each section. So writing the chapter summary is also very important. And in each and every chapter, you have to highlight the main argument and analytical focus of each section. And the concluding chapter usually synthesizes the findings and reflects on the broader implications of the study. So the concluding chapter should clearly and logically bring in all the ideas. A clear and logical chapter structure helps publishers and reviewers assess the intellectual coherence of the proposed book. So the another important aspect is target audience. We have to keep in mind the target audience. So proposals should be prepared keeping in mind the target audience. Books with pedagogical value are often more appealing to publishers because they reach a broader academic readership. So we have to tone down. We have to tone down the theoretical jargons and all those complex things in our thesis, and we have to convert our thesis into reader-friendly ones, right? Target audience is very, very important, and competing and comparable titles. So in every book proposal, the publisher will ask a question: which are the other books available already available in your field? So you have to mention 3 or 5. It depends. A few recent books that address similar themes and theoretical frameworks in your field. So demonstrating awareness of comparative titles reassures publishers that the author understands the scholarly context and the potential scholarly context and that the proposed book makes a unique contribution. So you need not list out so many books, but you should bring in a few important titles already available in your field, which clearly demonstrates your awareness of comparable titles in the field. And through that process, you can communicate to the publisher that your book is unique in your field. And finally, you can conclude the book proposal by highlighting your original contribution. A strong proposal must clearly outline the book's original contribution. In humanities research, originality can take several forms. The book may introduce a new theoretical framework. So originality in developing a new theoretical framework, you can propose such a thing. So one example which comes to my mind is the famous book in the field of post-colonial studies, Gauri Vishwanathan's The Mass of Conquest, which was originally her PhD thesis. So how you develop a new, or whether you have developed a new theoretical framework, you can highlight that. That's the original contribution. So a new theoretical framework that reinterprets the established text, just like what Gauri Vishwanathan did. It could analyze previously neglected literary works or cultural materials that have not been the focus of sustained scholarly inquiry. So whether you could unearth some neglected literary works or some cultural materials, you can highlight that. That's also your original contribution. Alternatively, the study might employ an interdisciplinary methodology. integrating insights from literature, history, anthropology, or media studies. Okay. So originality can be based on different aspects. Okay, not necessarily based on the theme or author, but could also be based on theory also, right? Theoretical framework also, or interdisciplinary methodology also. And finally, estimated length and illustrations. You have to propose the estimated length of your manuscript. Could be usually 80,000 to 1 lakh words. They, they may include some guidelines also. Usually 80,000 to 1 lakh words. Although their final length may vary according to the publisher's guidelines. If the book includes illustrations, tables, or archival images, they should also be mentioned. That's also very important. The author should indicate whether permission will be required for copyrighted material, such as images, photographs, or reproduced text. This is very, very important. If you propose to include a few visuals or images which require copyright, of course, you have to get the copyright before sending it for publication, right? This information enables publishers to evaluate potential production costs and legal consideration. So publishers are very keen to know about all these things. So you have to get the copyright because it is safer for the publisher as well as the author to avoid legal complications. And of course, the potential production costs. If some visuals are added, the production cost will vary, right? And finally, the status of the manuscript. So I was trying to tell you about the structure of the book proposal. The manuscript should be fully completed, partially written or revised. If the book is derived from a doctoral thesis, the proposal should explicitly state that the manuscript has been substantially revised based on its PhD dissertation. So while writing the proposal, you can state that you have substantially revised your dissertation by making the proposal. While making the proposal, publishers often favor projects that demonstrate significant transformation from thesis to book. So publishers, they welcome projects that demonstrate significant transformation. I was talking about radical revisions at the beginning. It's not cosmetic revision, but radical significant transformation from thesis to book, including structural reorganization and stylistic revisions. Okay. And once you send the book proposal, the publisher would send the proposal to potential reviewers. Some publishers invite authors to suggest potential reviewers. So you can propose a few names as reviewers who are adept in your field. And these scholars should be experts in the relevant field and affiliated with reputable academic institutions. The author should provide their names, institutional affiliations, and areas of expertise. And there are some publishers, they won't ask about the potential reviewers. Okay. And finally, sample chapters have to be attached. Some publishers require sample chapters. For example, Orient Black Swan, they demand one chapter, one model chapter. So some publishers request 1 or 2 sample chapters along with the proposal, and these chapters represent the strongest sections of the manuscript. So send a chapter which is very, very clearly written, which has clarity. You are confident about a particular chapter, then you can send that chapter. These chapters represent the strongest sections of the manuscript and clearly demonstrate the book's argument and analytical depth. Typically, authors submit the introduction and one analytical chapter. It won't be a bad idea to send the introduction and one analytical chapter, as these sections showcase both the conceptual framework and methodological approach. So you can highlight the conceptual framework as well as the methodological approach. As we all know, the success of a thesis depends on analysis, how we analyze the theoretical framework with the help of primary sources. So that it won't be a bad idea and to send one analytical chapter along with the introductory chapter where theoretical framework is introduced. Importantly, the sample chapters should reflect the revised style of a book, just like the style of a book, rather than the dense and formal style of a dissertation. Okay. So sometimes the dissertations are very prosaic, right? So remove that tone and style, make it more reader friendly, clear, engaging prose, and well structured arguments assist reviewers in assessing the readability and scholarly quality of the proposed monograph. Okay. And as a conclusion, I can say crafting a book proposal is an essential step in converting a PhD thesis into a publishable scholarly monograph. So before I conclude, let me sum up what I have transacted so far. I started with a couple of objectives. Before that, life after PhD has so many possibilities, some 2 or 3 possibilities. I discussed only one possibility. One main possibility is converting one's thesis into a book. Yet other possibilities, I repeat, the second possibility is to convert the book into a few articles, research articles, right? The third possibility is developing or elaborating or extending one's dissertation into a postdoctoral project. That is also a possibility. So I haven't highlighted the other 2 possibilities. I highlighted only on the first possibility, that is from dissertation to book. So while introducing the topic, I started with a couple of objectives. Then I started with a brief introduction to this process, such complicated process. Then I proposed a few steps of converting a book into, a thesis into a book. The one step is identifying the central argument, and the second is reducing the thesis formalities, followed by reorganizing the structure, strengthening the introduction and conclusion, revising style and updating fellow scholarship, highlighting original contribution, and preparing for publication. And steps to convert a thesis into a book. The second part of my lecture was on how to prepare a book proposal. We had to keep in mind 5 or 6 important components while preparing a book proposal. The first one is restructuring or renaming or retitling the book project. The second one is author information, writing a short bio of the author. Thirdly, writing the most important book synopsis. And fourthly, the table of contents and chapter outline, how to restructure those things. And yet another important aspect is target audience, then competing and comparable titles, then original contribution, highlighting the original contribution of the book proposal, then estimated length and illustrations, and finally, status of the manuscript, followed by potential reviewers. And of course, sample chapters. Along with the introduction, you can send one analytical chapter. So with this, let me stop for the time being. Thank you so much.
Hello, sir. Thank you very much for the wonderful illustration of what happens after one gets a PhD degree. Now, when I first heard the title, I thought you were going to say something about career information. What happens to somebody's life after getting? But then I realized, but I know you won't speak something like that, because I forgot to tell my audience that, he has already is on a work. I think it's almost ready for publication, a book on research methodology in English studies. And that is also by Orion Vlaxman, if I'm right. So that means, actually
Yes.
he's reporting his own experiences of writing a book rather than, having a kind of, shared knowledge or maybe getting some ideas from others. No. He has published a
Yeah.
lot of books and he knows how to get it published also. And especially these days, there are number of, what we call as paid publications, edited volumes, or maybe a collection of articles, all that, those things are happening. But here is here's somebody who is talking us or speaking us about an honest way of coming up with a genuine book with one's own ideas. And one can begin with a PhD thesis that one has produced. From there you can start your journey. So it is not enough that you complete your publication with one book, but you can start with at least one book. Means the first step is publishing your own original ideas. And again, since it has been already gone through this kind of what we call as rigorous academic analysis, and that way it is something like an advantage for the publisher also, because they know that this has come out from a well-known university. They have gone through this procedure, so they can depend on the facts, of course. But after that, that is also important. Once you get a PhD, once you publish the first book, then it becomes more of a responsible job where you have what you're not just free to do things, but you become more what we call as more careful about doing these things, because you become more responsible. You become that it is not easy. It's not an easy job, to simply publish books. And moreover, there are, I'm sure, the number of like viewers are there who are interested to ask questions on how to go about doing it. Since you have already explained everything, I'm sure some people must be having some questions on that. So I open the forum
Yeah.
for a brief discussion. Okay. So now I invite all those who have joined for
Most
the program to ask questions.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening.
Sir, I have the same question. My PhD has been awarded, but still I am in a fix how to convert the PhD into a book.
Yeah, you have completed your PhD, right?
Yes, sir.
You have completed your PhD and you're waiting to publish it as a book, right?
Yes, sir. I want to.
Yeah. Please raise your question. What's your doubt?
Sir, actually, I'm still too much confused how to convert this PhD into a book, because this is a different thing, but uh, book is a different thing and it needs lots of effort and guidance.
Absolutely, it will take minimum 6 months,
So
as I said. Yeah, yeah,
I would like to get
absolutely.
your guidance from where I should start. What are the basics of writing a book?
Basics of writing a book, in the sense, you already have a book with you in the form of a thesis. Okay, in the form of thesis. So you should automatically be confident because you have a 200 or 250 page document with you, and you need to convert that document into a book. The first step is to focus, as I said, is to focus on the central argument. Hmm? And you have to keep in mind, there are two things you have to keep in mind at the very beginning. The first thing I should say, you should think about the potential readers. Who are the potential readers of your book? Then, secondly, you have to think about you have to pick the central argument of your thesis, PhD thesis, and you have to recheck whether you have done justice to that argument in your dissertation, whether you need to modify your hypothesis. That's also very, very important. After submitting the thesis, and especially after your viva, you would have got so many new inputs, so many new thoughts. So you can make use of all those ideas so that you can slightly revise and modify your hypothesis or central argument, and you have to check whether your central argument is logical throughout the thesis from beginning to end. At the beginning, you need not bother about the technical aspects. I mean, the style of writing, etc. Okay, you focus on the content, the central argument. And the third important thing is to focus on the structure of your thesis. You have to tweak the structure of the thesis. Very important for the audience, for the readers, for the lay readers or the educated readers and scholars, right? Not for the examiners. Okay, so you have to restructure the third important thing is to restructure the outline, the chapter outline of your thesis. Okay. Then the fourth important thing is to revisit the central argument and identify the supporting arguments, which you developed across chapters. Through different chapters, you developed supporting arguments to substantiate the hypothesis or central argument. So you have to pick the supporting arguments, and again you have to recheck the strength of your supporting arguments. Okay, and again you have to come back to, it's a complex and complicated process. It depends, it is subjective. I would revisit the structure again after rechecking the subsidiary arguments. Then I would revisit the original structure of the thesis. Then I would restructure the structure of the thesis. Perhaps I may merge introductory chapter with the theoretical chapter, right? So that we can avoid lots of jargon, right? We can make it more reader friendly. Then I would focus on the analysis chapters. In analysis chapters, I would, if you ask me, I would delete long quotations, which we were forced to include to increase the number of pages, right, in the thesis. So avoid long quotations, avoid so many unnecessary, I won't say unnecessary, you can keep away some references, citations. You can do away with some citations. Of course, some citations are very, very important, but you can leave, you can do away with a few citations. That I would minimize. So in one word, I would say it is all about minimizing the content and the style to cater to the market, to cater to the potential readers. So you have to directly communicate to the readers through your book. Okay, and because you are not targeting the 3 examiners and 3+1 your supervisor, that's a difference. And take 6 to 1 year to convert the thesis into a book, and do it slowly. Take 1 hour per day or 2 or 3 hours per week. So, if you are working, if you're doing some work, set apart some time for that. And it is not an easy process. I know reading one's thesis is not at all an easy process. So you will definitely get fresh insights, some ideas you could have included in your thesis which you did not. Okay. So you can do so many, you can include so many additions. You will delete so many things, you will eliminate or delete so many things. At the same time, there are also possibilities of additions, new thoughts, new ideas, new perspectives which you can add and make your book more contemporary, more interdisciplinary, more financially viable for the publisher. So I wish you all the best. I repeat, it is not an easy process. It is a difficult process. And please go for
Thank
a
you so
good
much, sir.
publisher. And
Yeah.
please go for a good publisher, which is very, very important, because it is very important because of 2 reasons. From institutional point of view, it is very important. if you go for a good publisher, it is very important for the career growth of a scholar or a student of literature. When you appear for an interview, who is a publisher matters a lot. The brand is very, very important, of course. And there are shortcuts. There are, self-published books. Please don't go for shortcuts. Go for top publishers, because the competition is that much important in the academic field. Take the risk, take the challenge, and I would say you would enjoy the process, though it's painful, right, and rigorous. I wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Sir, I would like to request you one more thing. Sometimes kindly arrange some lectures and
Pardon? I
workshops
didn't.
for book
Pardon?
writing and
Pardon? I didn't
curriculum
get
design, syllabus development. Sir, kindly arrange some
Pardon?
conferences. Kindly arrange some workshops and some. Uh, am I audible?
Okay. Okay. Now
Sir,
I
I
can hear you.
request you in a very humble manner to organize some conferences and some workshops for book writing and syllabus design, curriculum development.
Yeah, I can do that,
It is
please.
quite
Yeah.
compulsory to learn such things for a teacher.
Yeah, are you a teacher from which place?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Sir, I am
where are you
from
working?
Bhopal.
Bhopal. Okay. What's a
In
good name?
Bhopal only.
Your good name, please. Which
Deepa
university?
Rastogi.
Oh, okay.
Deepa
Okay.
Rastogi.
Which university, madam? Which university?
Sir, Barkatullah University.
Okay. Fine. Oh, okay.
Bhopal
I
University.
Fine. Actually, this is a very small component of my proposed book on research methodology. I have just completed the first draft of my book, in which there are so many other components, like how to do postdoctoral research and how to convert the thesis into a few research articles. I took only a small component of a small chapter of my book. Hopefully, the book will be published this year itself. I'm going to send it for publication within 2 months, right?
Yeah, any other question? I think, sir, if there are no any other questions coming up, I think we can wind up for the day. Ghanshyam, sir, maybe you
Absolutely.
can intervene and you can address the audience. We are waiting for your words.
Sir, very good evening. And Rajesh, sir.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Indeed, it's a pleasure and honor to have you on the
Good evening. Good
platform
evening.
of iSPELL. Hope I am audible, sir.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, sir. I can hear you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And there is an article which I have read, like Kota was very famous for IITians to get through JE in Rajasthan. So it was called as Kota Factory.
Yeah.
And then once I visited IIT Madras. In IIT Madras, for a course, when I went there, the professors were telling, like, the students, they come here after cracking JEE, and then I asked them, what after IIT? So there is a big question, what after IIT? So the same thing you have answered, what after PhD? So what after IIT is only the perks, only good kind of a salary, and working in a multinational or so-called corporate sector, then getting a huge amount of money, and then doing what? So that's $1 million question. So attaining PhD, as you said, is absolutely right. It's the very first step of your research. It's not the end of research. It's the beginning of the research. And lot more avenues are there. Not only writing the books, not only writing the articles, not only writing various research papers, but also to make one understand what is PhD, how to get PhD, how to go about it, what are the nuances of PhD, what's the right way to do PhD, how the references are to be written, how the bibliographical references are to be written, and how to read between the text, which we are not finding nowadays. So nowadays PhD has become only compiling the things. Sir, secondary materials are available on this, so I'll work on that. Why to work on that? Why can't you prepare your own secondary material? So you are the first one who is going to do it. So why can't you do it? So you have taken a wonderful topic and you have reached to the culmination of the topic in such a way that every individual who has done PhD must understand where to go, how to go, and how to climb the steps, and what skills one has to have in himself or herself to become the real master of acquiring that PhD. So we need to prove ourselves that yes, I got this PhD. So that proof has to be given. So for that proof, every individual has to work in a different way. So that you have taken in a very wonderful way, sir. So thank you very much for your such a great scholarship and the way you have presented the things. And indeed, this Saturday evening has given a new avenue for all of us to think, rethink, and that's why it's always said learn, relearn, and then unlearn to relearn again. So what we are doing is we are learning, but we are not relearning. And even if we relearn, we do not unlearn. So until and unless we unlearn, we cannot learn again. So that you have mentioned. So thank you very much for being on the platform of iSPELL, sir. As the General Secretary of iSPELL, I thank on behalf of the iSPELL family, and we do hope that we will have you in other occasions also, as far as iSPELL's monthly Sahityik Satsang is concerned. Thank you very much, sir. So thank you, Murali Krishnan, sir.
Absolutely. It was.
For leading the ship in
It was indeed a privilege for me to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please, sir. Carry on, sir.
It was indeed a privilege for me. It was a privilege for me to share some thoughts with academics of your stature. So thank you so much. It was a good opportunity. Thank you, Muralikrishnan sir, for inviting me. So it was nice meeting all of you from all parts of India.
So thank you, Murali Krishnan sir, for rowing the boat. And you played the role of Lord Krishna, and Rajesh sir played the role of Arjuna. So the battle is won now.
Okay, sir. So I think I request Pramod to, if the certificates are ready for display, please.
No, sir, that will be sent later.
Okay, that will be sent later. Okay, I'll share that with our speaker, Dr. Rajesh. So that's
Pramod
okay.
Will send it to you, sir, and you send it to Rajesh, sir.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Sir. No problem. No, it's a wonderful thing to do. So thank you very much. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Pramod.
Thank you.
So much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pramod. So wonderful.